12. The Tang Emperor, firmly sincere, convenes a grand mass. 1 in Epiphany, converse gold cicada. We were telling you about the demon guardian who was leading Liu Quan and his wife out of the region of darkness. Accompanied by a swirling dark wind, they went directly back to Chang'an of the great nation. The demon pushed the soul of Liu Quan into the Golden Court Pavilion Lodge, but the soul of Qiulian was brought into the inner court of the royal palace. Just then the Princess Yuying was walking beneath the shadows of flowers along a path covered with green moss. The demon guardian crashed right into her and pushed her to the ground. Her living soul was snatched away and the soul of Qiulian was pushed into Yuying's body instead. The demon guardian then returned to the region of darkness, and we shall say no more about that. We now tell you that the maidservants of the palace, both young and old, when they saw that Yuying had fallen and died, ran quickly to the Hall of the Golden Chimes and reported the incident to the queen, saying, "The princess has fallen and died." Or 5. The queen reported it to Taizong. When Taizong heard the news, he nodded, sighing, and said, "For this has come to pass indeed. We did ask the King of Darkness whether the old and young of our family would be safe or not. He said, 'They will all be safe, but I fear that your royal sister will not live long.' Now his word is fulfilled." All the inhabitants of the palace came to mourn her, but when they reached the spot where she had fallen, they saw that the princess was breathing. "Stop weeping, said the Tang Emperor, Dogg. T startled her. He went forward and lifted her head with the royal hand, crying out, "Wake up, royal sister." Our princess suddenly turned over and cried, "Husband, walk slowly. Wait for me." "Sister," said Taizong, "we are all here." Lifting her head and opening her eyes to look around, the princess said, "Who are you that you dare touch me?" "This is your royal brother," said Taizong, "and your sister-in-law." "Where do I have any royal brother and sister-in-law?" asked the princess. "My family is Lai, and my maiden name is Lai Qiulian. My husband, his surname is Liu and his given name is Quan. Both of us are from Jinja. Because I pulled a golden hairpin to give to a monk outside our home as arms 3 months ago, my husband rebuked me for walking indiscreetly out of our doors and thus violating the etiquette appropriate to a woman. He scolded me, and I became so enraged that I hanged myself with a white silk cord, leaving behind a pair of children who wept night and day. On account of my husband, who was sent by the Tang Emperor to the region of darkness to present melons, King Yama took pity on us and allowed us both to return to life. He was walking ahead. I could not keep up with him, tripped, and fell. How rude you all are, not knowing my name. How dare you touch me?" When Taizong heard these words, he said to his attendants, "I suppose my sister was knocked senseless by the fall." Just babbling, he ordered that Yuying be helped into the palace and medicine be brought in from the court dispensary. As the Tang Emperor went back to the court, one of his assistants came forward to report, saying, "Your Majesty, the man Liu Quan, who went to present the melons, has returned to life. He is now outside the gate, awaiting your order." Greatly startled, the Tang Emperor at once gave the order for Liu Quan to be brought in, who then prostrated himself before the red liquor courtyard. Taizong asked him, "How did the presentation of melons come off?" "Your subject," said Liu Quan, bore the melons on his head and went straight to the gate of spirits. I was led to the hall of darkness, where I met the 10 kings of the underworld. I presented the melons and spoke at length about the sincere gratitude of my lord. King Yama was most delighted, and he complimented your majesty profusely, saying that Taizong Emperor is indeed a man of virtue and a man of his word. "What did you happen to see in the region of darkness?" asked the Tang Emperor. "Your subject did not travel far," said Liu Quan, "and I did not see much. I only heard King Yama questioning me on my native village and my name. Your subject therefore gave him a full account of how I abandoned home and children because of my wife's suicide and volunteered for the mission. He quickly sent for a demon guardian who brought in my wife, and we were reunited at the Hall of Darkness. Meanwhile, they also examined the books of life and death and told us that we both should live to a ripe old age. The demon guardian was dispatched to see us back to life. Your subject walked ahead, but my wife fell behind. I'm grateful that I'm now returned to life, but I do not know where my wife has gone." Alarmed, the Tang Emperor asked, "Did King Yama say anything about your wife?" "He didn't say much," said Liu Quan. "I only heard the demon guardian's exclamation that Lai Qiulian had been dead for so long that her body no longer existed. King Yama said, the royal sister, Lai Yuying, should die shortly. Let Qiulian borrow the body of Yuying so that she may return to life. Your subject has no knowledge of who that royal sister is and where she resides, nor has he made any attempt to locate her. When the Tang Emperor heard this report, he was filled with delight and said to the many officials around him, "When we took leave of King Yama, we questioned him with regard to the inhabitants of the palace. He said that the old and the young would all be safe, though he feared that our sister would not live long. Just now our sister Yuing fell dying beneath the flowers. When we went to her assistance, she regained her consciousness momentarily, crying, 'Husband, walk slowly. Wait for me.' We thought that her fall had knocked her senseless, as she was babbling like that. But when we questioned her carefully, she said exactly what Liu Quan now tells us. If her Royal Highness passed away momentarily, only to say these things after she regained consciousness," said Wei Jing. "This means that there is a real possibility that Liu Quan's wife has returned to life by borrowing another person's body. Let us invite the princess to come out and see what she has to tell us. We just asked the court dispensary to send in some medicine," said the Tang Emperor, "for we don't know what's happening." Some ladies of the court went to fetch the princess, and they found her inside, screaming, "Why do I need to take any medicine? How could this be my house? Ours is a clean, cool house of tiles, not like this one, yellow as if it had jaundice, and with such gaudy appointments. Let me out, let me out." She was still shouting when 4 or 5 ladies and 2 or 3 eunuchs took hold of her and led her outside to the court. The Tang Emperor said, "Do you recognize your husband?" "What are you talking about?" said Yuing. "The 2 of us were pledged to each other since childhood as husband and wife. I bore him a boy and a girl. How could I not recognize him?" The Tang Emperor asked one of the palatial officials to help her go down from the treasure hall. The princess went right before the steps of White Jade, and when she saw Liu Quan, she grabbed him, saying, "Husband, where have you been? You didn't even wait for me." "I tripped and fell, and then I was surrounded by all these crazy people, talking nonsense. What do you have to say to this?" Liu Quan heard that she was speaking like his wife, but the person he saw certainly did not resemble her, and he dared not acknowledge her to be his own. The Tang Emperor said, "Indeed, men have seen mountains cracking, or the gaping of earth, but none has seen the living exchange for the dead. What a just and kindly ruler." He took his sister's toilet boxes, garments, and jewelry and bestowed them all on Liu Quan. It was as if the man was provided with a dowry. He was, moreover, exempted forever from having to engage in any compulsory service to the crown, and was told to take the royal sister back to his home. So, husband and wife together expressed their gratitude before the steps and returned happily to their village. We have a testimonial poem. How long, how short, man has his spin-off years. He lives and dies, each foreordained by fate. Liu Quan presented melons and returned to life. In someone's body so did lie, his mate. The 2 of them took leave of the emperor, went directly back to Genju, and saw that both house and children were in good order. They never ceased thereafter to proclaim the rewards of virtue, but we shall speak of them no further. We now tell you about Yu Gong, who took a huge load of gold and silver and went to see Zhang Liang at the Kaifeng district in Henan. It turned out that the man made his living by selling water, while his wife, whose surname was Zhang, sold pottery in front of their home. Whatever money they made, they kept only enough for their subsistence, giving all the rest either as alms to the monks or as gifts to the dead by purchasing paper money and burning it. They thus built up enormous merit, for though they were poor folks in the world of light, they were, in fact, leading citizens for whom jade and gold were laid up in the other world. When Yu Gong came to their door with the gold and silver, Papa Zhang and Mama Zhang were terror-stricken. And when they also saw the district officials with their horses and carriages assembling outside their thatched hut, the aged couple were dumbfounded. They knelt on the floor and kowtowed without ceasing. "Old folks, please arise," said Yu Gong. "Though I'm an imperial official, I came here with this gold and silver to repay you by order of my king." Shaking and quaking, the man said, "Your lowly servant has never lent money to others. How dare we accept such inexplicable wealth? I have found out," said Yu Gong, "that you are indeed a poor fellow, but you have also given alms to feed the monks. Whatever exceeds your necessities you have used to purchase paper money, which you burn in dedication to the region of darkness. You have thus accumulated a vast fortune down below. Our emperor, Taizang, returned to life after being dead for 3 days. He borrowed a roomful of gold and silver from you while he was in the region of darkness, and we are returning the exact sum to you. Please count your money accordingly so that we may make our report back to the emperor." Zhang Liang and his wife, however, remained adamant. They raised their hands to heaven and cried, "If your lowly servants accepted this gold and silver, we should die quickly. We might have been given credit for burning paper cash, but this is a secret unknown to us. Moreover, What evidence do we have that our Father, His Majesty, borrowed our money in some other world? We simply dare not accept this. His Majesty told us, said Yu Chai Gong, that he received a loan from you because Judge Qi vouched for him and he could bear testimony. So please accept this. Even if I were to die, said Zhang Liang, I could not accept the gift. Seeing that they persisted in their refusal, Yu Chai Gong had no alternative but to send someone back to report to the throne. When Taizeng saw the report and learned that Zhang Liang had refused to accept the gold and silver, he said, "They are truly virtuous elders." He issued a decree at once that Hu Jing should use the money to erect a temple, to build a shrine, and to support the religious services that would be performed in them. The old couple, in other words, would be repaid in this manner. The decree went out to Jing, who, having expressed his gratitude, facing the capital, proclaimed its content for all to know. He used the money to purchase a lot of about 50 acres not needed either by the military authorities or the people. The temple was erected on this piece of land and named the Royal Zhangyo Temple. To the left of it there was also a shrine dedicated to Papa and Mama Zhang, with a stone inscription stating that the buildings were erected under the supervision of Yu Chai Gong. This is the great Zhangyo Temple still standing today. The work was finished and reported. Taizeng was exceedingly pleased. He then gathered many officials together in order that public notice be issued to invite monks for the celebration of the grand mass of land and water, so that those orphan souls in the region of darkness might find salvation. The notice went throughout the empire, and officials of all regions were asked to recommend monks illustrious for their holiness to go to Chang'an for the mass. In less than a month's time, various monks from the empire had arrived. The Tang Emperor ordered the court historian, Fu Yi, to select an illustrious priest to take charge of the ceremonies. When Fu Yi received the order, however, he presented a memorial to the throne that attempted to dispute the worth of Buddha. The memorial said, "The teachings of the Western Territory deny the relations of ruler and subject, of father and son. With the doctrines of the three ways and the sixfold path, they beguile and seduce the foolish and the simple-minded. They emphasize the sins of the past in order to ensure the felicities of the future. By chanting in Sanskrit, they seek a way of escape. We submit, however, that birth, death, and the length of one's life are ordered by nature, but the conditions of public disgrace or honor are determined by human volition. These phenomena are not, as some Philistines would now maintain, ordained by Buddha. The teachings of Buddha did not exist in the time of the five Thirds and the three kings, and yet those rulers were wise, their subjects loyal, and their reigns long-lasting. It was not until the period of Emperor Ming in the Han Dynasty that the worship of foreign gods was established. But this meant only that priests of the Western Territory were permitted to propagate their faith. The event, in fact, represented a foreign intrusion in China, and the teachings are hardly worthy to be believed. When Taizeng saw the memorial, he had it distributed among the various officials for discussion. At that time, the Prime Minister Zhao Yu came forward and prostrated himself to address the throne, saying, "The teachings of Buddha, which have flourished in several previous dynasties, seek to exalt the good and to restrain what is evil. In this way they are covertly an aid to the nation, and there is no reason why they should be rejected. For Buddha, after all, is also a sage, and he who spurns a sage is himself lawless. I urge that the dissenter be severely punished." Taking up the debate with Zhao Yu, Fu Yu contended that propriety had its foundation in service to one's parents and ruler. Yet Buddha forsook his parents and left his family. Indeed, he defied the Son of Heaven all by himself, just as he used an inherited body to rebel against his parents. Zhao Yu, Fu Yu went on to say, was not born in the wilds, but by his adherence to this doctrine of parental denial, he confirmed the saying that an unfilial son had in fact no parents. Zhao Yu, however, folded his hands in front of him and declared, "Hell was established precisely for people of this kind." Taizeng thereupon called on the Lord High Chamberlain, Zhang Deyuan, and the President of the Grand Secretariat, Zhang Shiheng, and asked how efficacious the Buddhist exercises were in the procurement of blessings. The two officials replied, "The emphasis of Buddha is on purity, benevolence, compassion, the proper fruits, and the unreality of things." It was Emperor Wu of the Northern Zhou dynasty who set the three religions in order. The Chen master, Da Hui, also had extolled those concepts of the dark and the distant. Generations of people revered such saints as the fifth patriarch, who became man, or the Bodhidharma, who appeared in his sacred form. None of them proved to be inconspicuous in grace and power. Moreover, it has been held since antiquity that the three religions are most honorable, not to be destroyed or abolished. We beseech, therefore, your majesty to exercise your clear and sagacious judgment. Highly pleased, Taizong said, the words of our worthy subjects are not unreasonable. Anyone who disputes them further will be punished. He thereupon ordered Wai Jing, Xiao Yu, and Zhang Deyuan to invite the various Buddhist priests to prepare the site for the Grand Mass and to select from among them someone of great merit and virtue to serve as the altar master. All the officials then bowed their heads to the ground to thank the emperor before withdrawing. From that time also came the law that any person who denounces a monk or Buddhism will have his arms broken. The next day the three court officials began the process of selection at the Mountain River altar, and from among the priests gathered there they chose an illustrious monk of great merit. Who is this person, you ask? Gold Cicada was his former divine name. As heedless he was of the Buddha's talk, he had to suffer in this world of dust, to fall in the net by being born a man. He met misfortune as he came to earth, and evildoers even before his birth. His father, Shen, a Yuan from Heiju. His mother's sire, chief of this dynasty's court, fated by his natal star to fall in the stream. He followed tide and current, chased by mighty waves. At Gold Mountain, the island, he had great luck, for the abbot, Qianan, raised him up. He met his true mother at age 18 and called on her father at the capital. A great army was sent by Chief Kaishan to stamp out at Hanju the Vivius crew. The Yuan Guangru escaped his doom. Son rejoined, Sire, how worthy of praise. They saw the emperor to receive his grace. Their names resounded in Lingyan Tower. Declining office, he chose a monk's life at Hanfu Temple to seek the true way. This old Buddha child, nicknamed River Float, with the religious name of Chen Chuanzing. So that very day the multitude selected the priest Chuanzing, a man who had been a monk since childhood, who maintained a vegetarian diet, and who had received the commandments the moment he left his mother's womb. His maternal grandfather was Yin Kaishan, one of the chief army commanders of the present dynasty. His father, Shen Guangui, had taken the prize of Yuan and was appointed Grand Secretary of the Wenyuan Chamber. Xuanzing, however, had no love for glory or wealth, being dedicated wholly to the pursuit of NIRV Imakon Little 147. Their investigations revealed that he had an excellent family background and the highest moral character. Not one of the thousands of classics and sutras had he failed to master. None of the Buddhist chants and hymns was unknown to him. The three officials led Xuanzing before the throne. After going through elaborate court ritual, they bowed to report, your subjects, in obedience to your holy decree, have selected an illustrious monk by the name of Chen Chuanzing. Hearing the name, Taizong thought silently for a long time and said, can Chuanzing be the son of Grand Secretary Chen Guanguri? Child River Float kowtowed and replied, that is indeed your subject. This is a most appropriate choice, said Taizong, delighted. You are truly a monk of great virtue and possessing the mind of Chen. We therefore appoint you the Grand Expositor of the Faith, Supreme Vicar of Priests. Chuanzing touched his forehead to the ground to express his gratitude and to receive his appointment. He was given, furthermore, a cassock of knitted gold in 5 colors, a Virikana hat, and the instruction diligently to seek out all worthy monks and to rank all these Acaryas in order. They were to follow the imperial decree and proceed to the Temple of Transformation, where they would begin the ritual after selecting a propitious day and hour. Xuanzing bowed again to receive the decree and left. He went to the Temple of Transformation and gathered many monks together. They made ready the beds, built the platforms, and rehearsed the music. A total of 1,200 worthy monks, young and old, were chosen, who were then further separated into 3 divisions occupying the rear, middle, and front portions of the hall. All the preparations were 159 completed and everything was put in order before the Buddhas. The 3rd day of the 9th month of that same year was selected as the lucky day, when a grand mass of land and water lasting 49 days in accordance with the number 7 times 7 would begin. A memorial was presented to Taizong, who went with all his relatives and officials, both civil and military, to the mass on that day to burn incense and listen to the lecture. We have a poem as testimony. The poem says, when the year star of Zhengyuan reached 13, the king called his people to hear the sacred books. The boundless law was performed at a plot of truth, cloud, fog, and light with the great promise hall. By grace the king decreed this grand temple's right, shall shed gold cicada salt wealth of the west. He spread wide the good works to save the damned and held his faith to preach the 3 modes of life. In the 13th year of the Zhengyuan period, when the year stood at Jisi and the 9th month at Jiaixu, on the 3rd day and at the auspicious hour of Gaimao, Chen Chuanzing, the great expositor priest, gathered together 1,200 illustrious monks, They met at the Temple of Transformation in the city of Chang'an to expound the various holy sutras. After holding court early that morning, the emperor led many officials, both military and civil, and left the treasure hall of golden chimes by phoenix carriages and dragon chariots. They came to the temple to listen to the lectures and raise incense. How does the imperial cortege appear? Truly it comes with a sky full of blessed air, countless shafts of hallowed light. The favorable wind blows gently, the omnific sun shines brightly. 1,000 lords with girdle jade walk in front and rear. The many flags of guardsmen stand both left and right. Those holding gilt bludgeons and halberds and axes march in pairs and pairs. The red silk lanterns, the royal incense urn, move in solemnity. The dragons fly and the phoenixes dance. The falcons soar and the eagles take wing. This son of heaven's an upright sage. The righteous ministers are good. They increase our bliss by 1,000 years, surpassing you and Shun. They secure peace of 10,000 ages, rivaling Yao and Tang. We also see the curve-handled umbrella and robes with rolling dragons, their glare lighting up each other. The jade joined rings, the phoenix fans, waving through holy mist. Those caps off pearls and bells off jade, the purple sashes and medals of gold. 160. 1,000 rows of soldiers protect the throne. 2 lines of marshals uphold the carriage. This emperor, cleansed and sincere, owes to the Buddha, glad to raise incense and seek virtue's fruit. The grand cortege of the Tang emperors soon arrived in front of the temple. The emperor ordered a halt to the music, left the carriages, and led many officials in the worship of Buddha by taking up burning incense sticks in their hands. After bowing 3 times holding the incense, they raised their heads and looked around them. This was indeed a splendid religious hall. You see, dancing flags and banners, bright, gleaming sunshades. Dancing flags and banners fill the air with strands of flesh and colored mists. Bright, gleaming sunshades glow in the sun as fiery balls. Imposing, the gold image of LOKM Macron JYE letter 163 letter 160H. Most awesome, the jade features of the RX. Divine flowers fill the vases. Sandalwood incense burn in the urns. The divine flowers filling the vases adorn the temple with a brilliant forest of brocade. The sandalwood incense burning in the urns covers the clear sky with waves of fragrant clouds. Piled high on red trays are fruits in season. On colored counters, mounds of cakes and sweets rest. Rows of noble priests chant the holy sutras to save from their travails those orphan souls. Taizong and his officials each lifted the incense. They also worshipped the golden body of the Buddha and paid homage to the arhats. Thereafter, the master of the law, Shen Chuanzi, the grand expositor of the faith, led the various monks to greet the Tang emperor. After the ceremony, they went back to their seats according to their rank and station. The priest then presented Taizong with a proclamation for the deliverance of the orphan souls. It read, "The supreme virtue is vast and endless, for Buddhism is founded upon Nirva Macron letter 147. The spirit of the pure and the clean circulates freely and flows everywhere in the 3 regions. There are 1,000 changes and 10,000 transformations, all regulated by the forces of yin and yang. Boundless and vast indeed are the substance, the function, the true nature, and the permanence of such phenomena. But look at those orphan souls, how worthy they are of our pity and commiseration. Now by the holy command of Taizong, we have selected and assembled various priests who will engage in meditation and in the proclamation of the law. Flinging wide the gates of salvation and setting in motion many vessels of mercy, we will deliver you, the multitudes, from the sea of woe and save you from perdition and from the sixfold path. You will be led to return to the way of truth and to enjoy the bliss of heaven, whether it be by motion, rest, or non-activity. You will be united with and become pure essences. Therefore make use of this noble occasion, for you are invited to the pleasures of the celestial city. Take advantage of our grand mass so that you may find release from hell's confinement, ascend quickly and freely to ultimate bliss, and travel without restraint in the region of the west." The poem says, "An urn of immortal incense, some scrolls of salvific power. As we proclaim this boundless law, receive now heaven's endless grace. All your guilt and crime abolished, you lost souls may leave your prison. May our nation be firmly blessed with peace long and all-embracing." Highly pleased by what he read, Taizong said to the monks, "Be firm, all of you, in your devotion, and do not slacken your service to Buddha. After the achievement of merit and after each has received his blessing, we shall reward you handsomely. Be assured that you will not have labored in vain." The 1,200 monks all touched their foreheads to the ground to express their gratitude. After the 3 vegetarian meals of the day, the Tang emperor returned to the palace to wait for the formal celebration of the mass 7 days hence, when he would again be invited to raise incense. As dusk was about to fall, the various officials all retired. What sort of evening was this? Look at the long stretch of clear sky as twilight dims, as specks of Dogg drop to their perch late. People grow quiet, the city full of lights. Now's the time for Chan monks to meditate. We have told you about the scenery of the night. The next morning the master of the law again ascended his seat and gathered the monks to recite their sutras, but we shall say no more about that. We shall now tell you about the Bodhisattva Guanyin of the Potalaka Mountain in the South Sea, who, since receiving the command of Tathagata, was searching in the city of Changan for a worthy person to be the seeker of scriptures. For a long time, however, she did not encounter anyone truly virtuous. Then she learned that Taizan was extolling merit and virtue and selecting illustrious monks to hold the grand mass. When she discovered, moreover, that the chief priest and celebrant was the monk child River Flow, who was a child of Buddha born from paradise and who happened also to be the very elder whom she had sent to this incarnation, the Bodhisattva was exceedingly pleased. She immediately took the treasures bestowed by Buddha and carried them out with MOK letter 163 to sell them on the main streets of the city. What were these treasures? You ask. They were the embroidered cassock with rare jewels and the 9-ring priestly staff. But she kept hiding the golden, the constrictive, and the prohibitive fillets for use in a later time, putting up for sale only the cassock and the priestly staff. Now in the city of Changan there was one of those foolish monks who had not been selected to participate in the grand mass but who happened to possess a few strands of pelf. Seeing the Bodhisattva, who had changed herself into a monk covered with scabs and sores, barefooted and bareheaded, dressed in rags, and holding up for sale the glowing cassock, he approached and asked, "You filthy monk, how much do you want for your cassock?" "The price of the cassock," said the Bodhisattva, "is 5,000 taels of silver. For the staff, 2,000. The foolish monk laughed and said, "This filthy monk is mad, a lunatic. You want 7,000 taels of silver for 2 such common articles. They are not worth that much even if wearing them would make you immortal or turn you into a Buddha. Take them away. Y'all never be able to sell them." The Bodhisattva did not bother to argue with him. She walked away and proceeded on her journey with MOK letter 163. After a long while, they came to the Eastern Flower Gate and ran right into the Chief Minister Xiao, who was just returning from court. His outriders were shouting to clear the streets, but the Bodhisattva boldly refused to step aside. She stood on the street holding the cassock and met the Chief Minister head on. The Chief Minister pulled in his reins to look at this bright, luminous cassock and asked his subordinates to inquire about the price of the garment. "I want 5,000 taels for the cassock," said the Bodhisattva, "and 2,000 for the staff." "What is so good about them?" asked Xiao, "that they should be so expensive?" "This cassock," said the Bodhisattva, "has something good about it and something bad, too. For some people it may be very expensive, but for others it may cost nothing at all." "What is good about it?" asked Xiao, "and what's bad about it?" "He who wears my cassock," replied the Bodhisattva, "will not fall into perdition, will not suffer in hell, will not encounter violence, and will not meet tigers and wolves. That's how good it is. But if the person happens to be a foolish monk who relishes pleasures and rejoices in iniquities, or a priest who obeys neither the dietary laws nor the commandments, or a worldly fellow who attacks the sutras and slanders the Buddha, he will never even get to see my cassock. That's what's bad about it." The Chief Minister asked again, "What do you mean? It will be expensive for some and not expensive for others." "He who does not follow the law of Buddha," said the Bodhisattva, "or revere the 3 jewels will be required to pay 7,000 taels if he insists on buying my cassock and my staff. That's how expensive it will be. But if he honors the 3 jewels, rejoices in doing good deeds, and obeys our Buddha, he is a person worthy of these things. I shall willingly give him the cassock and the staff to establish an affinity of goodness with him." That's what I meant when I said that for some it would cost nothing. When Xiao heard these words, his face could not hide his pleasure, for he knew that this was a good person. He dismounted at once and greeted the Bodhisattva ceremoniously, saying, "Your Holy Eminence, please pardon whatever offense Xiao might have caused. Our great Tang Emperor is a most religious person, and all the officials of his court are like-minded. In fact, we have just begun a grand mass of land and water, and this cassock will be most appropriate for the use of Chen Chuanzi, the grand expositor of the faith. Let me go with you to have an audience with the throne." The Bodhisattva was happy to comply with the suggestion. They turned around and went into the Eastern Flower Gate. The custodian of the yellow door went inside to make the report, and they were summoned to the treasure hall, where Xiao and the 2 monks covered with scabs and sores stood below the steps. What does Xiaoyu want to report to us? Asked the Tang Emperor. 163. Prostrating himself before the steps, Xiaoyu said, your subject going out of the eastern flower gate met by chance these two monks, selling a cassock and a priestly staff. I thought of the priest, Shumanzing, who might wear this garment. For this reason, we ask to have an audience with your majesty. Highly pleased, Taizong asked for the price of the cassock. The Bodhisattva and MOK little 163 stood at the foot of the steps but did not bow at all. When asked the price of the cassock, the Bodhisattva replied, 5,000 taels for the cassock and 2,000 for the priestly staff. What? That's so good about the cassock, said Taizong, that it should cost so much. The Bodhisattva said, of this cassock, the dragon which wears but one shred will miss the woe of being devoured by the great rock, or a crane on which one thread is hung will transcend this world and reach the place of the gods. Sit in it, 10,000 gods will salute you. Move with it, 7 Buddhas will follow you. This cassock was made of silk drawn from ice silkworm and thread spun by skilled craftsmen. Immortal girls did the weaving. Divine maidens helped at the loom. Bit by bit, the parts were sewn and embroidered. Stitch by stitch, it arose, a bouquet from the heddle. Its petals should weave finer than ornate blooms. Its colors, brilliant, emit precious light. Wear it, and crimson mist will surround your frame. Doff it, and see the colored clouds take flight. Outside the 3 heavens, though its primal light was seen, before the 5 mountains its magic aura grew. Inlaid are layers of lotus from the west, and hanging pearls shine like planets and stars. On 4 corners are pearls that glow at night. On top stays fastened an emerald. Though lacking the all-seeing primal form, it's held by 8 treasures all aglow. This cassock you keep folded at leisure. You wear it to meet sages. When it's kept folded at leisure, its rainbow-like hues cut through 1,000 wrappings. When you wear it to meet sages, all heaven takes fright, both demons and gods. On top are the letter 1E5 BDDHI pearl, the MM Akron letter 1E47I pearl, the dust-clearing pearl, the wind-stopping pearl. There are also the red cornelian, the purple coral, the luminescent pearl, the Sarapatra. They rob the moon of its whiteness. They match the sun in its redness. In waves its divine aura imbues the sky. It flashes its brightness lifts up its perfection. In waves its divine aura imbues the sky, flooding the gate of heaven. In flashes its brightness lifts up its perfection, lighting up the whole world. Shining upon the mountains and the streams, it wakens tigers and leopards. Lighting up the isles and the seas, it moves dragons and fishes. Along its edges hang 2 chains of melted gold, and joins the collars a ring of snow-white jade. The poem says, the august 3 jewels most noble truths judge all 4 creatures on the 6-fold path. The mind bright nephews on God's law and man's. The nature perceived transmits the wisdom lamp. Solemn Vajradhatu guards one's body when a mind's pure like ice and flasks off jade. Since Buddha caused this cassock to be made, which 10,000 kalpas could harm a monk. When the Tang Emperor, who was up in the treasure hall, heard these words, he was highly pleased. Tell me, priest, he asked again, what's so good about the 9-ring priestly staff? My staff, said the Bodhisattva, has on it 9 joined rings made of iron and set in bronze, and 9 joints of vine immortal ever young. When held, it scorns the sight of aging bones. It leaves the mount to return with fleecy clouds. It roamed through heaven with the 5th patriarch. It broke hell's gate when Liubo sought his mount. Not soiled by the filth of this red dust world, it gladly trails the god monk of Mount Jade. When the Tang Emperor heard these words, he gave the order to have the cassock spread open so that he might examine it carefully from top to bottom. It was indeed a marvelous thing. Venerable elder of the great law, he said, we shall not deceive you. At this very moment we have exalted the religion of mercy and planted abundantly in the fields of blessing. You may see many priests assembled in the temple, a transformation to perform the law and the sutras. In their midst is a man of great merit and virtue, whose religious name is Chuanzi. We wish, therefore, to purchase these 2 treasure objects from you to give them to him. How much do you really want for these things? Hearing these words, the Bodhisattva and MOK little 1E63 folded their hands and gave praise to the Buddha. If he is a man of virtue and merit, she said to the throne, bowing, this humble cleric is willing to give them to him. I shall not accept any money. She finished speaking and turned at once to leave. The Tang Emperor quickly asked Xiaoyu to hold her back. Standing up in the hall, he bowed low before saying, previously you claimed that the cassock was worth 5,000 taels of silver and the staff 2,000. Now that you see we want to buy them, you refuse to accept payment. Are you implying that we would bank on our position and take your possession by force? That's absurd. We shall pay you according to the original sum you asked for. Please do not refuse it. Raising her hand for a salutation, the bodhisattva said, this humble cleric made a vow before, stating that anyone who reveres the three treasures, rejoices in virtue, and submits to our Buddha will be given these treasures free. Since it is clear that your majesty is eager to magnify virtue, to rest in excellence, and to honor our Buddhist faith by having an illustrious monk proclaim the great law, it is my duty to present these gifts to you. I shall take no money for them. They will be left here, and this humble cleric will take leave of you. When the Tang Emperor saw that she was so insistent, he was very pleased. He ordered the court of banquets to prepare a huge vegetarian feast to thank the bodhisattva, who firmly declined that also. She left amiably and went back to her hiding place at the temple of the local spirit, which we shall mention no further. We tell you now about Taizang, who held a new court and asked Wai Jing to summon Chuanzing to an audience. That master of the law was just leading the monks in chanting sutras and reciting jayas. When he heard the emperor's decree, he left the platform immediately and followed Wai Jing to come before the throne. We have greatly troubled our master, said Taizang, to render exemplary good works, for which we have hardly anything to offer you in thanks. This morning Xiao Yu came upon 2 monks who were willing to present us with a brocaded cassock with rare treasures and a 9-ring priestly staff. We therefore call specially for you so that you may receive them for your enjoyment and use. Chuanzing kowtowed to express his thanks. If our master of the law is willing, said Taizang, please put the garment on for us to have a look. The priest accordingly shook open the cassock and draped it on his body, holding the staff in his hands. As he stood before the steps, ruler and subjects were all delighted. Here was a true child of Tathagata. Look at him, his looks imposing. How elegant and fine. This robe of Buddha fits him like a glove. Its most lustrous splendor spills over the world. Its bright colors imbue the universe. Up and down are set rows of shining pearls. Back and front thread layers of golden cords. Brocade gilds the robe's edges all around, with patterns embroidered most varied and rare. Shaped like 8 treasures are the thread-made frogs. A gold ring joins the collars with velvet loops. It shows on top and bottom heaven's ranks, and stars, great and small, are placed left and right. Great is the fortune of Chuanzing, the priest, now most deserving of this precious thing. He seems a living art from the west, or even better than his true elite. He holds his staff and all its 9 rings clang, beneficent his Virkana hat. The true Buddha child is no idle tale. He matches the Bodhi, and that's no lie. The various officials, both civil and military, stood before the steps and shouted bravo. Taizang could not have been more pleased, and he told the master of the law to keep his cassock on and the staff in his hands. 2 regiments of honor guards were ordered to accompany him along with many other officials. They left the gate of the court and proceeded on the main streets toward the temple, and the whole entourage gave the impression that Zhuan Yuan was making a tour of the city. The procession was a stirring sight indeed. The merchants and tradesmen in the city of Chang'an, the princes and noblemen, the men of ink and letters, the grown men and the little girls, they all vied to get a good view. Everyone exclaimed, what a priest. He is truly a living arhat descended to earth, a live bodhisattva coming to the world. Chuanzing went right to the temple where he was met by all the monks leaving their seats. The moment they saw him wearing that cassock and holding the staff, they all said that King K-163 ITIGRBH had arrived. Everyone bowed to him and waited on him left and right. Going up to the main hall, Chuanzing lighted incense to honor the Buddha, after which he spoke of the emperor's favor to the multitude. Thereafter, each went back to his assigned seat, and soon the fiery orb sank westward. So it was. Sunset, mist-hid trees and grasses. The capital's first chimes rang out. Jing they struck thrice, and human traffic ceased. Streets back and front soon grew quiet. The lights burned bright at first temple. The lone village was hushed and mute. The monk focused to tend the sutra still. Time to smell demons, to nurse his spirit. Time went by like the snapping of fingers, and the formal celebration of the grand mass on the 7th day was to take place. Chuanzing presented the Tang Emperor with a memorial, inviting him to raise the incense. News of these good works was circulating throughout the empire. Upon receiving the notice, Taizang sent for his carriage and led many of his officials, both civil and military, as well as his relatives and the ladies of the court, to the temple. All the people of the city, young and old, nobles and commoners, went along also to hear the preaching. At the same time, the 167 Bodhisattva said to MOK-163, today is the formal celebration of the Grand Mass, the first 7th of 7 such occasions. It's about time for you and me to join the crowd. First, we want to see how the mass is going. Second, we want to find out whether Gold Cicada is worthy of my treasures. And third, we can discover what division of Buddhism he is preaching about. The two of them thereupon went to the temple. And so it is that affinity will help old comrades meet as perfection returns to this holy seat. As they walked inside the temple to look around, they discovered that such a place in the capital of a great nation indeed surpassed the little 1E63A, little 1E0DVR, little 1E63A, or even the Jetavana garden of the SQ Travesty. It was truly a lofty temple of CATURDISQG, a little 1E25, resounding with divine music and Buddhist chants. Our bodhisattva went directly to the side of the platform of many treasures and beheld a form truly resembling the enlightened Gold Cicada. The poem says, all things were pure with not a spot of dust. Xuanzang of the great law sat high on stage. Lost souls, redeemed, approached the place unseen. The city's highborn came to hear the law. You give when time's ripe. This intense far-reaching. You die as you please. The cannon doors open. As they heard him rehearse the boundless law, young and old were glad and comforted. Another poem says, since she made a tour of this holy site, she met a friend unlike all other men. They spoke of the present and of countless things, of merit and trial in this world of dust. The cloud of law extends to shroud the hills. The net of truth spread wide to fill all space. Asses your lives and return to good thoughts, for heaven's grace is rife as falling blooms. On the platform, that master of the law recited for a while the suture of life and deliverance for the dead. He then lectured for a while on the heavenly treasure chronicle for peace in the nation, after which he preached for a while on the scroll on merit and self-cultivation. The bodhisattva drew near and thumped her hands on the platform, calling out in a loud voice, hey, monk, you only know how to talk about the teachings of the little vehicle. Don't you know anything about the great vehicle? When Xuanzang heard this question, he was filled with delight. He turned and leaped down from the platform, raised his hands and saluted the bodhisattva, saying, Venerable teacher, please pardon your pupil for much disrespect. I only know that the priests who came before me all talk about the teachings of the little vehicle. I have no idea what the great vehicle teaches. The doctrines of your little vehicle, said the bodhisattva, cannot save the damned by leading them up to heaven. They can only mislead and confuse mortals. I have in my possession Tripitaka, 3 collections of the great vehicle laws of Buddha, which are able to send the lost to heaven, to deliver the afflicted from their sufferings, to fashion ageless bodies, and to break the cycles of coming and going. As they were speaking, the officer in charge of incense and the inspection of halls reported to the emperor. The master was just in the process of lecturing on the wondrous law when he was pulled down by 2 scabby mendicants, babbling some kind of nonsense. The king ordered them to be arrested, and the 2 monks were taken by many people and pushed into the hall in the rear. When the monk saw Taizong, she neither raised her hands nor made a bow. Instead, she lifted her face and said, What do you want of me, your majesty? Recognizing her, the Tang emperor said, Aren't you the monk who brought us the casket the other day? I am, said the bodhisattva. If you have come to listen to the lecture, said Taizong, you may as well take some vegetarian food. Why indulge in this one discussion with our master and disturb the lecture hall, delaying our religious service? What that master of yours was lecturing on, said the bodhisattva, happens to be the teachings of the little vehicle, which cannot lead the lost up to heaven. In my possession is the Tripitaka, the great vehicle law of Buddha, which is able to save the damned, deliver the afflicted, and fashion the indestructible body. Delighted, Taizong asked eagerly, What is your great vehicle law of Buddha? At the place of our Lord, Tathagata, said the bodhisattva, in the great temple of Thunderclap, located in India of the great western heaven. It can untie the knot of 100 enmities. It can dispel unexpected misfortunes. Can you remember any of it? Said Taizong. Certainly, said the bodhisattva. Taizong was overjoyed and said, Let the master lead this monk to the platform to begin a lecture at once. Our bodhisattva led MOK little 1E63 and flew up onto the high platform. She then trod on the hallowed clouds to rise up into the air and revealed her true salvific form, holding the pure vase with the willow branch. At her left stood the virile figure of MOK little 1E63 carrying the rod. The Tang emperor was so overcome that he bowed to the sky and worshipped, as civil and military officials all knelt on the ground and burned incense. Throughout the temple, there was not one of the monks, nuns, Taoists, secular persons, scholars, craftsmen, and merchants who did not bow down and exclaim, Dear Bodhisattva, we have a song as a testimony. They saw only auspicious mist and diffusion, and Dharmakaya veiled by holy light. In the bright air of ninefold heaven, a lady immortal appeared, that Bodhisattva. or on her head a cap, fastened by leaves of gold, and set with flowers of jade, with tassels of dangling pearls, all aglow with golden light. On her body she had a robe of fine blue silk, lightly colored, and simply fretted. 169, by circling dragons and soaring phoenixes. Down in front was hung a pair of fragrant girdle jade, which glowed with the moon and danced with the wind, overlaid with precious pearls and with imperial jade. Around her waist was tied an embroidered velvet skirt of iceworm silk and piped in gold, in which she topped the colored clouds and crossed the jasper sea. Before her she led a cockatoo with red beak and yellow plumes, which had roamed the eastern ocean and throughout the world to foster deeds of mercy and filial piety. She held in her hands a grace dispensing and world-sustaining precious vase, in which was planted a twig of pliant willow, that could moisten the blue sky, and sweep aside all evil, all clinging fog and smoke. Her jade rings joined embroidered loops, gold lotus grew beneath her feet. For 3 days off she came and went, this very Guanchen who saved from pain and woe. So pleased by the vision was Tang Taizong that he forgot about his empire. So enthralled were the civil and military officials that they completely ignored court etiquette. Everyone was chanting, Namo Bodhisattva Guanchen. Taizong at once gave the order for a skilled painter to sketch the true form of the Bodhisattva. No sooner had he spoken than a certain Wu Deizhi was selected, who could portray gods and sages and was a master of the noble perspective and lofty vision. This man, in fact, was the one who would later paint the portraits of meritorious officials in the Lingyan Tower. Immediately he opened up his magnificent brush to record the true form. The hallowed clouds of the Bodhisattva gradually drifted away, and in a little while the golden light disappeared. From midair came floating down a slip of paper on which were plainly written several lines in the style of the Gad. We greet the great ruler of Tang with scripts most sublime of the West. The way, 108,000 miles. This Mahayana seek earnestly. These books, when they reach your estate, can redeem damned spirits from hell. If someone is willing to go, he'll become a Buddha of gold. When Taizong saw the gather, he said to the various monks, Let's stop the mass. Wait until I have sent someone to bring back the scriptures of the great vehicle. We shall then renew our sincere effort to cultivate the fruits of virtue. Not one of the officials disagreed with the emperor, who then asked in the temple, who is willing to accept our commission to seek scriptures from Buddha in the western heaven. Hardly had he finished speaking when the master of the law stepped from the side and saluted him, saying, Though your poor monk has no talents, he is ready to perform the service of a dog and a horse. I shall seek these true scriptures on behalf of your majesty, that the empire of our king may be firm and everlasting. Highly pleased, the Tang emperor went forward to raise up the monk with his royal hands, saying, If the master is willing to express his loyalty this way, undaunted by the great distance or by the journey over mountains and streams, we are willing to become bond brothers with you. Xuanzang touched his forehead to the ground to express his gratitude. Being indeed a righteous man, the Tang emperor went at once before Buddha's image in the temple and bowed to Xuanzang 4 times, addressing him as our brother and holy monk. Deeply moved, Xuanzang said, Your Majesty, what ability and what virtue does your poor monk possess that he should merit such affection from your heavenly grace? I shall not spare myself in this journey, but I shall proceed with all diligence until I reach the western heaven. If I do not attain my goal, or the true scriptures, I shall not return to our land even if I have to die. I would rather fall into eternal perdition in hell. He thereupon lifted the incense before Buddha and made that his vow. Highly pleased, the Tang emperor ordered his carriage back to the palace to wait for the auspicious day and hour when official documents could be issued for the journey to begin. And so the throne withdrew as everyone dispersed. Xuanzang also went back to the temple of great blessing. The many monks of that temple and his several disciples, who had heard about the quest for the scriptures, all came to see him. They asked, Is it true that you have vowed to go to the western heaven? It is, said Xuanzang. O master, one of his disciples said, I have heard people say that the way to the western heaven is long, filled with tigers, leopards, and all kinds of monsters. I fear that there will be departure but no return for you, as it will be difficult to safeguard your life. I have already made a great vow and a profound promise, said Xuanzang, that if I do not acquire the true scriptures, I shall fall into eternal perdition in hell. Since I have received such grace and favor from the king, I have no alternative but to serve my country to the utmost of my loyalty. It is true, of course, that I have no knowledge of how I shall fare on this journey or whether good or evil awaits me. He said to them again, My disciples, after I leave, wait for 2 or 3 years, or 6 or 7 years. If you see the branches of the pine trees within our gate pointing eastward, you will know that I'm about to return. If not, I shall not be coming back." The disciples all committed his words firmly to memory. The next morning, Taizong held court and gathered all the officials together. They wrote up the formal rescript stating they intend to acquire scriptures and stamped it with the seal of free passage. The president of the Imperial Board of Astronomy then came with the report. "Today the positions of the planets are especially favorable for men to make a journey of great length." The Tang Emperor was most delighted. Thereafter the custodian of the Yellow Gate also made a report, saying, "The master of the law waits your pleasure outside the court." The emperor summoned him up to the treasure hall and said, "Royal brother, today is an auspicious day for the journey, and your rescript for free passage is ready. We also present you with a bowl made of purple gold for you to collect arms on your way. 2 attendants have been selected to accompany you, and a horse will be your means of travel. You may begin your journey at once." Highly pleased, Xuanzang expressed his gratitude and received his gifts, not displaying the least desire to linger. The Tang Emperor called for his carriage and led many officials outside the city gate to see him off. The monks in the Temple of Great Blessing and the disciples were already waiting there with Xuanzang's winter and summer clothing. When the emperor saw them, he ordered the bags to be packed on the horses first, and then asked an officer to bring a pitcher of wine. Taizong lifted his cup to toast the pilgrim, saying, "What is the byname of our royal brother?" "Your poor monk," said Xuanzang, "is a person who has left the family. He dares not assume a byname." The Bodhisattva said earlier, said Taizong, that there were 3 collections of scriptures in the western heaven. Our brother can take that as a byname and call himself Tripitaka. How about it? Thanking him, Xuanzang accepted the wine and said, "Your Majesty, wine is the first prohibition of priesthood. Your poor monk has practiced abstinence since birth. Today, his journey," said Taizong, "is not to be compared with any ordinary event. Please drink 1 cup of this dietary wine and accept our good wishes that go along with the toast." Xuanzang dared not refuse. He took the wine and was about to drink, when he saw Taizong stoop down to scoop up a handful of dirt with his fingers and sprinkle it in the wine. Tripitaka had no idea what this gesture meant. "Dear brother," said Taizong, laughing, "how long will it take you to come back from this trip to the western heaven?" "Probably in 3 years' time," said Tripitaka. "You'll be returning to our noble nation." "The years are long and the journey is great," said Taizong. "Drink this, royal brother, and remember, treasure a handful of dirt from your home, but love not 10,000 taels offering gold." Then Tripitaka understood the meaning of the handful of dirt sprinkled in his cup. He thanked the emperor once more and drained the cup. He went out of the gate. 172, and left. As the Tang Emperor returned in his carriage, we do not know what will happen to him on this journey. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. 13.